How's it going, everybody? Jersey, Crit, welcome. So how's everybody doing tonight? And I'm happy that you are here as well, Crit. Yeah, so tonight I thought do something a little bit different, shift gears a little bit. For the last while we've been, doing some riffs and songs and things like that. So what I thought it'd be kind of fun to do, this was something I was putting together for some stuff for my private lessons. And anyway, I thought it would be a really good thing to do with you guys. So something that you may have not got to this point yet, or you may have gotten to this point a long time ago, but it gets to be after a while to a certain point where you're really bored with playing, these just regular open chords that we all learn at first. Your G, C, D, all that kind of stuff. So there are some really neat things that can be done with these chords by just making very small alterations to them. And they're really easy to do, but they sound really cool. It's also a way that you can add in a chordal melody. So you're playing like the same chord, but you're changing like the highest pitched note. So our ear kind of follows that. You think about like dust in the wind. So we've got that. So that's like our melody note. So you can take that same kind of concept and you can do it with all these open chords. So we're gonna look at A, C, D, E, F, and G's. Now we're not doing B's just simply because it's a bar chord. So bar chords is kind of, there's lots of things that can be done with those too, but that's kind of a different story for a different day. I already know I'm benched. Okay, I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, this is actually pretty easy. So as usual, there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs that for all of these different chords. So in some of these alternative voicings, you may already know. You may have played them before and didn't know what it was that you were doing. And that being said, there's a ton of chords we're going to look at, and they all have different names and everything. You don't necessarily need to memorize all these names. We'll kind of talk more about that as we go along. So yeah, get your tabs and we will get started. Hello, Rick. Welcome. How you doing? You healing up good? And while I'm waiting for everybody to grab their tabs and whatnot, if you like what I'm doing, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, consider subscribing to the channel, all that, YouTuber stuff. Really appreciate it. Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. All these different procedures they do. They've got it down to a science, but it's always kind of scary, when you're getting carved on, because shit happens sometimes. All right, so we're doing this. I've got these in kind of a weird order. There is no reasoning behind it other than this started out where it was just going to be variations of E, and then it just kept growing, and then it turned into what it is. So it's not in any sort of order. So that being said, it's not like they're easier and then get more difficult. It just depends on the voicing, whatever chord we're looking at. Some of them for one person might be really difficult, for another person might be easier, and vice versa, just like anything else. All right, so the first one on each one of these sections is the traditional voicing that you probably already play. So got E major. So open 2 2 1, open open, right? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add in uh, another third. The major third is this G sharp here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up another one. So we just do that same voicing. We're going to take your pinky and reach up and grab the 4th fret of the high E string with that pinky. So that's still an E major chord, but it sounds significantly different than this does. Now, that already right there, you can hear that you have sort of a chordal melody. If you were just, it sounds, it makes your ear thinking that it's hearing something more than it's actually hearing. So yeah, so we're not doing anything different there. We're not changing any of the notes. We're just changing this voicing, so it's still just a regular triad of 1 3 5. All right, so we go on to the third one here. We have E minor, so it's just the regular E minor that you already know by flattening the third. The third is G sharp. We flatten it to G, and we get E minor. So that being said, we can also grab this G up here on the 3rd fret of the high E string, and that's still E minor. So again, you get this, little kind of a chordal melody thing going with it. Now, some of these, there will be more voicings for one particular chord than others, just depending upon what it is. And this is definitely not all the possibilities that you could do. This is just a handful. These are just ones that are fairly simple to get to. Okay, so then we have E7. So our E7, we're just going to take an E major chord and we're going to add a flat 7 in it. So we just remove our 3rd finger so the D string is open. So that's the voicing that you probably already know and play. So we can expand this. We can spice it up a little bit by grabbing the 3rd fret of the B string, because that's a D. So that's the same chord. It's just a different voicing. So see what I'm doing there? I already know from playing these other shapes what kind of the notes that are in the what other notes can be added in there. So by moving these around, like what I'm doing there, I'm doing an E7, but then I'm adding this G up here on the top of it. So I've still got a major third and a minor third together. So that obviously that's no longer just a regular E7 chord, but it can still sound cool, by adding in these notes on the top end, and then you create that vocal or chordal melody, like what I was talking about, like with Dust in the Wind. And there's tons and tons of things that, songs that have examples of this concept. All right, yeah, so you got the E7 like this or like this, and then E minor 7, all we're going to do is flatten the third. So we just take our 1st finger off. So I'm open, 2, open, open, 3, open. So this is probably the voicing that you probably already know. Or actually, this is the most basic way of voicing. It's just fretting the 2nd fret of the A string and everything else open. So you go from E minor to E minor 7 just by simply taking that finger off. Then you can add a D right here on the 3rd fret of the D string, just like we did with these all the other voicings of E so far. Then you could also do where you're doing a full on E minor and adding the D there. One that I missed somehow is actually by doing the G up here on the 3rd fret of the high E string. So this one isn't on the chart, but which is weird because this is like by far my favorite voicing of this chord. So just by lifting those fingers on and off, by changing those notes, we're making that, a chordal melody. After we do a few more of these, then we'll kind of put them together into some different ideas. Like at the very beginning, when I first came on, I was just kind of winging it through some stuff like that. Yeah, it does. It does. That's what I like sometimes about adding more of these notes that are making it what the chord is. By adding in this D here, we're getting the that's the note that makes it a 7. So by adding that on the top end instead of in the bottom, it's like more pronounced. And if you do that whole thing, that just sounds really good, in my humble opinion, and yours too as well. All right. Yeah. So then the next we have is E major 7. So and it looks like, oh no, never mind. I was going to say I thought there was a mistake on there. So an E major 7 chord, a dominant 7th chord is a major chord, so 1, 3, 5, and the flat 7, the 7th tone of the scale, flat and half step. And a minor 7 is the same thing, except the 3rd is also flat, so it's a minor chord with a flat 7. But a major 7 chord has the 7 is natural; it's wherever it lands in the scale. So this that's. I feel like I'm doing something wrong here. Am I being? No. So I'm on the 2nd fret of the A string, and then the 1st fret of the D and the G string, and then the B and high E strings are open. So if you were here when we did Wildfire a couple of months ago or so, that went from E major to that E major 7. So again, we're adding in a melody line in there. Melody, and again, just my humble opinion, having a melody through your music that doesn't necessarily have to be a vocal melody, but it has to be something that you could sing, that you could da 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 or hum or whatever. That's what makes a good song. That's what makes a really memorable song, is having that in there. And this is a really great way to do it, especially if you're just playing by yourself. If it's not like a band, it's just you and an acoustic guitar. You can really get a lot of really neat inflection into your playing by working with these different chords. Okay, so then the next one we have is E add 9. So when you have an add 9 chord, or you're doing a major chord and you're adding the 9th tone. So the 9th tone is actually the same note as the 2nd. It's just 1 octave higher. So in the case of E, our 2nd is F sharp. So if we just take a regular, man, I have got my mouth is drier than a bone. Luckily, I got the Canadians here to fix it. Okay, so I'm just going to take a regular E major chord, and I'm going to add that F sharp right here on the 2nd fret of the high E string. I'm going to use my pinky to do that. So I think that's a really nice sounding chord. The Irish on deck, huh? Jameson? Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, so, and then if we wanted to do E minor add 9, same thing. It's just an E minor chord. So just take your first finger off. I think that's the very first chord of Love Song by The Cure. That's what it sounds like in my memory, anyway. So, let me check something here. All right, so that is all of the E voicing. So before we move along, I want to point out some kind of highlights from this that you want to uh, you want to glean from this. So if you take E major or E minor or E7, E minor 7, any of those, the basic E chords that you already know, you can add in notes on the second fret of the high E, the third fret, and the fourth fret. Now that's depending upon what kind of a chord you're doing. If you're doing a minor chord, E minor, you probably don't want to add in that G sharp there up on top, because that's the major third. So you're getting a minor third and a major third together. And anytime you get two notes that are only a half step apart, they don't sound really great. So it's going to be a sequence of you're either going open 2, 3, or open 2, 4, depending upon whether it's based from a major chord or a minor chord. And then we have the B string open and the third fret. So I can, like, I'm just doing an E minor chord, and I'm playing this melody on top. So on the high E string, 3, 2, open to 3 on the B string, back to the open high E. So any combination of moving that around is going to work because those notes are in the key. So you can do the same thing, if we were doing that actually, it's kind of a little John Fogerty-ish in there. Just again, we're just using the same notes. We're just changing the order in which your ear is hearing them. When you hear those tones that are leading it to to a different kind of a chord, if they're in the lower in the registry, it's harder for you to pick up on. But when they're high, your ear just kind of follows along with that. So yeah. So before we move along, does anybody have any questions thus far? We're almost 20 minutes into it. I still got a lot more to go, so I'm going to have to speed the process up just a skosh. And if you like what I'm doing, hit that thumbs up button for me. It really helps them to know that I'm doing a good job for them. This isn't my channel. I just work here. All right, so the next ones we're going to look at are based around A. So the A major chord in the open position, regardless if you do it with one finger or you use 3 fingers. Some of these voicings, you're going to have to use just the one finger method. And I'll explain why. Well, actually, you'll more or less have to use both ways, just depending upon what you're doing. So we've got that A. This is the way that you probably already know how to do it. But you can also pick up the 5th fret of the high E string, because that's another A, and still the same chord. Another thing too that I forgot to talk about that you can do with these, and this is really helpful if you're songwriting. So if you're like like trying to write a song and uh, you put a chord progression together and you're like digging it, and then you show people and they're like, hey, that sounds like this song or that song. Just change up the chord voicing and it's going to make it sound different. If you just hear that, it doesn't just, that's the A that you're used to hearing, but you put that up on the top end and it just makes it sound different. All right, so yeah, for A major, we've just got these two voicings. And then for A minor, we just have the regular A minor. But this is an important one, important shape that we'll be doing the chordal melody. This will be a big part of it. Okay, so then we have A7. So to make A7, you just take your first finger off. Or excuse me, you take your first finger off, but you have to move your middle finger from the second fret of the G string to the second fret of the D string. So you're open to open to open. I think I totally had that wrong. A7, and then another version of A7 is we can pick up the G here on the high E string on the third fret. Or you could just do like a regular A and pick it up there. So now we've got like the A. Just by playing that A, and we're able to get that little melody out of there. I can just thought of one chord, another chord that's not on here that I should have included. So I'll just show you really quick. If you play A, and instead of picking up the E here on the high E string, if we just bar, so it's the second fret and you get F sharp, that's A6. So now you could have that plus the third fret of the high E string and the fifth fret. So it doesn't have to be a strumming thing, all kinds of cool stuff you can do with it. Okay, so the A7 you could also do like that. Okay, A minor 7. So if we go back to our regular A minor, that the one we already looked at, the one you already know, and you just remove your third finger, so that way that the G string is open, and that's A minor 7. So you could also do it like this, but pick up the third fret of the high E string. You could also just play a regular A minor and pick up the third fret of the high E string. So that's other stuff, other ideas too. By altering the notes down here, you're hearing that little change creates that melody. Okay, then A major 7. Whoops. So open A string, second fret of the D string, first fret of the G string, second fret of the B. Another one, I think that's a really nice sounding chord. Then we have A suspended 2. So if we take the A minor and you just take your first finger off so that the B string is open, that's A suspended 2. Now if we pick up the third fret of the B string, that's A suspended 4. So that's another part that would be like, like from Dust in the Wind. Oh, thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Or I'm not sure if that was like, hey, you're doing great, or I'm doing great. Either way, cool. And welcome. Okay, so that's all the voicings for A. And again, when I say all the voicings, that's all the voicings I've given you. This is definitely not all of the voicings for any of these chords. But now we can see that we have the same idea that we had before. We've got the basis of A, but we can also we can have the high E string open, we can have the third fret, we can have the fifth fret, we can have the B string be open, first fret or third fret. So again, it's whether or not if it's based off of a major or minor chord. So you could take the all kinds of neat things you can do with it. So really with this, as far as like how you practice it or whatever, um, you could go through and memorize all the shapes, memorize all the names. But you could also just get the concept of, okay, this is based around an A chord, or this is based around an E chord or a D chord, whatever the case may be, and then just remember where those notes are at, the ones you can add in. So they've all been in this, open first, second, third, and then up to fifth. Well, actually, they've had the G sharp and the E on the fourth fret. But as you just kind of play around with it, and then the ones that when you play it, that you prefer it because you like the way that it sounds better, or it's easier for you to play than another voicing. I mean, there might be one voicing of the chord that's really easy to play and another one that's really hard. So just kind of take the path of least resistance. Do the ones that are easy and or the ones that you really like the way they sound, and focus on those first. So that way you're actually playing something and you're utilizing it. And then down the road, you can add in the other stuff as you progress. So that is it for the A's. Nobody has any questions, and we can move along to the D's. If anybody has a question, you can go ahead and ask that now. And as usual, it's just Q&A, so it doesn't necessarily have to be about this. Hello, Marios. How's it going, man? Same guitar, like I don't know. I've been playing this one. I made myself a. I had to go through. I have to play everything I have, or I have to start selling them because I have some of them that they just end up sitting. And this is one of them. I haven't played it for a long time. I have been for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but I really like the way this thing plays. I don't know why I stopped playing it, but it's about time to trade it out to something else. Oh, you're always playing guitar. Okay, I get it. All right, so yeah, that's all you can ask for if you try to just learn something new every day, or maybe not learn something new, but like accomplish something new, like a technique, a chord that's giving you trouble, whatever the case may be. Always wanting to try to step it up. Okay, so now we're going to look at voicings for D. So regular old D major chord that you already know. But you could also pick up the A up here on the high, on the 5th fret of the high E string. So how I do it is then I just bar my first finger across the first 3 strings of the 2nd fret, and then use my middle finger to pick up the 3rd fret. All right, then we've got D minor. So we're just gonna flatten that 3rd, and then D7. So the D7 shape, by the way, is like the A major 7 shape, just moved up a set of strings. So I'm on the D strings open, and I'm on the 2nd fret of the G string, 1st fret of the B string, and 2nd fret of the high E string. So. Sweet pick or shred. Thank God I'm not. Oh yeah. So I know you joined us late, Mario. So this isn't really a thing for people, if they're having problems per se. This is just to give you some different ideas of different voicings that you can do. Uh, okay, so then we have D minor 7. So just open second fret of um, the G string and then the first fret of the B and the high E. The high E seems to work. Yeah, yeah. Um, the reason that is that the high E string is, like I said, when you strum, if I strum this, I'm playing, 3 notes, but six tones, but only 3 actual separate notes. But the note where your ear is kind of hanging on to is that higher note. Now, it's still hearing everything else because if I make it minor, it does sound different, but it's always those higher notes that kind of where you hang on to. Yeah, so we got the D minor 7, and then a D major 7 is you just bar all the way across the second fret of the first 3 strings with the D string open. Okay, and then we have D suspended 2. So these are the ones that you've probably done before. I mean, if you've been on here with me, we've done stuff with these before. So we have the D suspended 2 and D suspended 4. So D, regular D, if we take our middle finger off so the high E string is open, that's D suspended 2. And then if we put our pinky so it's on the 3rd fret of the high E string, that's D suspended 4. So we've already done some songs and done lots of examples of, you could, or there's like a million different songs that uses that exact, Stairway to Heaven. Lots and lots of songs that use that idea. But here again, you could do stuff with this in all kinds of different little things that you can do with there. There's other variations that I didn't cover on this, but just to give you an example, like when you're playing that D, you can reach up and grab notes that are lower too. So now I'm like doing a D over F sharp and picking up the F sharp there, or with your thumb here. I mean, there's lots of different things that will be subject for another day. So that's the one for D's. There's not as many of them. Some of the other ones. Yes, Mario. So that's a good way to look at it. It's like, it gives color. It gives, well, we're spicing it up, or making them sound better. All right. So the next batch we're going to look at are for C. Now, this one there's there there's lots of examples that are going to use this particular one. Like the whole main thing from Dust in the Wind is based out a lot of these voicings. So we can do regular old C like this that you already know. But if we pick up the 3rd fret of the high E string, which is another G, which is part of the triad, we get that. So if you're playing, C, and you alternate picking up that note, it makes it sound like something completely different. It makes it sound like there's more to it than there really is. Okay, and then we have a C7. So we're just going to take our pinky and we're going to pick up the third fret of the G string. Okay, then we have C major 7. So C major 7, we just take our first finger off, so we're just playing, we're fretting the B, or yeah, we're hitting C here on the A string, and then the second fret of the D string, and then the G, B, and high strings are just open. Now we can also add in a G up here on the third fret of the highest string. So with all of those, you can get stuff where you're all I'm doing is just playing variations of a C chord. So I'm doing the C major 7, and then I'm hammering on rather to the first fret of the B string to make it a regular C major chord. Now I'm going to pick up that G there on the third fret of the high E string. It's still just a C major chord, but we've created this little melody inside of there by moving those notes around. They're really easy. You can kind of just play around with it by ear as you're doing it, and try ones. Like I said, this isn't all of them, so there are other things that could be done. Like already been 2 of them that I thought of that I should have put on here and showed you earlier. Just play around with it. If it sounds good, it's good. There's, even if you're introducing a note that really makes it into some other totally different kind of a chord, your basis of it is still a C or a D, whatever kind of a chord it is that you're doing. Yeah, Mario. So Dustin, that's where I've been kind of using as an example for a lot of these. Okay, so now we can do a C suspended 2. So we just take our C chord and remove our middle finger so that D string is open. So now when we do that, we don't want to get, we just want, because of the E is the third. So by flattening it to a D, get C suspended 2. Then if we were to use our pinky to pick up the third fret of the D string, we have C suspended 4. So we can do a similar thing like we did with with the D suspended chords. We could do oops. I was playing like a half of a C major 7 and half of a C7. Okay, and then we have C add 9. So you may have already done C add 9 before if you've learned any like the 80s power ballads, C add 9. You can do C add 9 like that. You could also do it like that, but with the high E string open. When we did that Warrant song Heaven 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that song did a lot of the stuff that this does that we're looking at here with C. Yes, Alice in Chains Nutshell, another okay, you can also do a C add 9 just by taking your C and using your pinky to pick up the third fret of the B string. So that's like straight from from Dust in the Wind. You know, we got the open B string, so we've got that C major 7, or we start with C actually, the C major 7, and the C add 9. So we're just, that's our vocal melody, but then those other notes are staying the same. I know I'm kind of like repeating myself, but that's kind of the main thing, like I said, I wanted you to get out of this, is to be able to just have some stuff that you can play around with and pick and choose the ones you like and want to use based off of how easy it is for you, or you know, you like the way that it sounds, or you know, whatever, and just be able to have a little fun, kind of expand your horizons a little bit. All right. The next one we're going to look at are the G voicings. So this is something that I've talked about like a bunch of different times before on here. When you play your G chord like this, everybody either plays it like this, where you're fretting the third fret of the B string, or with the B string open. They're both correct. They're both Gs. When you play it with the B string open, that's your third, major third, that defines it as being a major chord. But D is the fifth, like a power chord. So this just has kind of a thicker sound. So it's the one I end up going to. I just prefer that. So you can play it the B string open or fretting the B string. Then we've got a G7. So the G7, you have to kind of change your whole hand position here, but your third fret of the low E and second fret of the A string, and the D and the G string are open like normal, but we're picking up the F here on the first fret of the high E string. So we can do it like that. We can also take that pinky that isn't doing anything and pick up the third fret of the B string. So we're getting another D in there. All right. Then to make G major 7, it's just G7, but you're going to just move the 7 up half step so it's in the natural position, in this case F sharp. So like that. Again, we can take our pinky and pick up the third fret of the B string. You must be the only person who can't play Dust in the Wind. Yeah, I seriously doubt that you are the only person that can't play Dust in the Wind. Work with these chords, you know, getting those concepts down, because then you'll start to remember that when you play a C, that you're like, oh, I know I can play that, and I can play this, and I can play that. You'll just remember where those notes are at, because most of them are in this area. We're basically playing up anywhere on the first 5 frets, just depending upon what chord it is you're doing. So yeah, so you do the G major 7 like this, or we can pick that up. Now we got G suspended 2. So if we just take G the way that I play it, where you figure, as old as you are, that you don't know it, should Paul, right? Yeah, I'm an old book. I don't even know the song. Yeah, I didn't really know how to play it. I kind of had my own interpretation of it as how to play it, but I didn't really like learn it how to really play it correctly until like maybe 10 years ago or something, just because it was one of those like bucket list things. Could have been a little bit longer than that. My concept of time sucks really bad now. Okay, yeah, so if we take that version But now we're going to take our first finger off because that's our major third. So we flatten that a whole step to get a second. We get G suspended 2. So I'm on the 3rd fret and then open, 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 3, 3. Now we could also pick up this. Wait a minute, is that? Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I just what I was thinking about, what I was looking at wasn't the same, and I thought it was a mistake on here. So okay, that's G suspended 2. Then to make it G suspended 4, we have to pick up the 2nd, or excuse me, the 3rd fret on the A string. We could also actually. Oh no, yeah, that's it. So I think that's a really nice sounding chord. So you can kind of do the same thing we were doing with the other ones, make a chordal melody, but it's a little bit more difficult with G because a lot of the voicings you have to completely change your hand position. Then we have G6, and with G6, it's basically we're going to add in an E, a high E. So if we just play the high E string open, so the simplest way to do it is like this. We're just getting the low end of the G chord, and then all the rest of the strings open. We could also pick up the 3rd fret of the high or of the B string, play it that way. This is the way that I prefer to do it. I just like the way that sounds. Although my guitar sounds like it's slowly going out of tune. All right. So then that brings us to the last section. So the last section is voicings from F. Buffalo Trace. Never even heard of it. Yeah, so there's quite a few different ones here, and these are some neat chordal melody things that you can do with these as well. So we have the basic F major chord that you probably already know. 3rd fret of the D string, 2nd fret of the G string, and then the 1st fret of the B and the high E string. And then the way that I typically play it is I'll substitute this for when I'm playing F, because I think this is kind of a weak sounding chord. But if you put this C in the bass, then you get F over C, so F/C. This is the way that I just play it most of the time. I just like it. Oh, it's a little early there in Melbourne for a drink. Well, Hell Jersey says that it's 8:48 there, so like they say, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm not condoning morning drinking, although I don't think that's ever anything I'm going to have to worry about. That's the farthest from something that sounds good to me in the morning is booze. All right, so we got the F, we got the F over C, and then we have an F minor. So we're just going to flatten the 3rd or F minor over C. So that particular shape right there, we've used that before in like little arpeggio things. Okay, so then we've got F major 7. So to make F major 7, you just take your F, but you play the high E string open. Or we could do F major 7 over C, where again we're adding in that low C. And this is probably the way that I would play it for the most part, unless I was going to be doing some little chordal melody thing. That's actually the next Beer Hounds beer reviews. Oh, beer reviews. That's cool. That's cool. Welcome. Oh yeah. So the next one we're going to look at is F add 9. So if we just take our F and we pick up the 3rd fret of the high E string, so we're adding in that G, we're getting this F add 9. Now if we flatten, so we're now 3 1 1 3. This is, I really like the way that chord sounds. I think that's neat. I don't remember. I haven't listened to Testament since the 90s, or possibly even the really late 80s. Love Out Skolnick, but I just never really got into them. So I can't think of what that's supposed to sound like. You Tried Mary Had a Little Lamb, but She Left. I'm sure there's some sort of a dad joke in there that I'm not getting. Yeah, I mean, there's some really bizarre chord voicings that you can do. This wasn't so much that you get the weird ones, as just to be able to have notes that you can add into chords you already know. They're just, little reach away that can really add a lot of, coolness to what you're doing. So the F minor add 9, and then we have an F6. So we've got 3 2 3 1. F6 add 9. We're going to, so how I do that one, actually we'll come back to this in a second. So 3rd fret of the D string, 2nd, 3rd, 3rd. And then if we add in if we flatten the 3rd, then we've got an F minor 6. What kind of guitar? This is a Spear R. Man, I can't remember what the model is on it. It doesn't say anywhere. I don't remember what the model is. It's a totally drawing a blank, but I really like it. It kind of reminds me of a Schecter. Like if you've ever played like a Hellraiser or any of the guitars from that series, it kind of reminds me of that as far as like how it feels like holding it like against your body. But the neck on this I like much better. It's not so. The Hellraisers that I've played have all had like a Gibson like 50s style, that fat baseball neck, and I'm not really a fan of that. I got little hands. Yeah, so yeah, the same idea that and it's weird is that I played other guitars from that series that didn't have the big fat necks, but the bodies all were kind of the same kind of a neck joint and the cutaways and everything. Oh yeah, we actually did. I think we did it on here. I know I did it as a YouTube video, but we did "Creep" by Radiohead. That's a great song for. It's just very unusual chord progression. Let's see. Yeah, I've never owned a Schecter guitar. I've worked on a ton of them. I've had a lot of students that have had them, but I've never bought one. I was always kind of, kind of a cheapskate and just didn't really spend a lot of money on guitars and stuff. And then I had an endorsement with the Spirit guitar, so I just ended up with a lot of them. I really like them. They're inexpensive guitars and they play really good. Uh, yeah, so we got that F6. So 3 2 3 1, F6 add 9, and then F minor 6 add 9. Okay, so this F6 add 9, if we look at that shape, so I'm on the third fret of the D string with my second finger, spear, Spear, like spear. Uh, Third fret, the D string, second fret of the G string, and then the third fret of the B and the high E string. Yes, like that, spear. Um, if you just take your first and second finger and just move them down one set of strings, now it's a C add 9. We move it down one set of strings again, and it's a G. So that's like another, like Paradise City. Really cool because you don't have to change a bunch of things. You can get these cool changes, but not have to really change your hand position around a whole bunch in order to be able to do it. Make sure. Yep. So that is it. We made it. I didn't think we were going to make it, considering it took 1/3 of the time to just do the first. Uh, well, I guess the first 12 measures, 12 chords, but there was a lot more chords in the E than there was in the other ones. So, yeah. So, does anybody have any questions about any of these that we went over? And if you're just joining us, there is a link in the description where you can download those tabs. Oh, you are welcome, Jersey. Made in Indonesia. Well, it depends. The really old Spirit guitars were made in Vietnam. And then they were made in Indonesia, and then they started making them in Korea. But the whole COVID thing happened, and it kind of screwed stuff up. So all the ones I have are Indonesian ones, and they're all really good guitars. I have quite a few of them, and for the price, it's really good. But they're really hard to come by now. There's no distribution in the United States. There's like a distributor that's in Germany and I don't know, like, or you can probably get one directly, from Korea or whatever. But it was a bummer when there was distribution here in the United States. I worked for them and would do like the QCs. So like when the guitars would get shipped out, I'd check them out to make sure that they weren't damaged and you know set them up a little bit. So I got to pretty much play all of them, and I knew which ones were really good and which ones I didn't like as much. And if I ever wanted one, the warehouse was like 6 miles away from my house. I just go get one. But uh, there's no longer U.S. distribution. I'm not sure what's going to happen with it. Yeah, RD250. That's a Les Paul style one. Am I weird? I'm the only one in the Gibson skeleton used to. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Marios. Uh, I'm not. Uh, I'm not really a huge Les Paul guy. I have some, and when I say Les Paul, I mean they're Spear ones. Pretty much all the guitars that I have right now, electric guitars, are all Spears except for uh, some Jacksons, Fender, Washburn, Glary, Rockstar. I've got a few other ones, but the majority of the ones that I mostly play that are, really nice ones are Spears. I have some nice Jacksons that they'll be coming into the rotation, and my Strat, but I need to do some wiring work on it. There's some issues in there. Oh yeah, the shape of the Les Paul. It's funny is that the first electric guitar I got was a Hondo Les Paul copy, and I didn't really like it, even though I was a huge Kiss fan. And for some reason, I didn't really associate that guitar to Ace Frehley, even though I had a poster hanging on my wall with him playing one. Mine was a different color, and I don't know if just for whatever reason, my brain didn't make that connection. Now I kind of really like it because it's just kind of a real classic look, but they're not the most comfortable guitar to play. And what I like about these is that they're thinner and the necks aren't so fat and they're a little lighter. All right. All right, Crit. Have a good one. PRS is another brand that I've never owned one. I've played a handful of them, but not really. It wasn't anything. I don't have anything against them, but I just haven't played anything yet that I really liked. All right. Well, thanks everybody. I really appreciate you coming out. I hope everybody has a good night, a good rest of your week, and all that jazz. And I will catch y'all in the next one. Have a great week, everybody. Later.